Students, welcome back to your chemistry class. Today in your grade 9 we are going to discuss about matter in our surroundings. This is our first chapter, you know very well. In this chapter already in our online class we have learnt about what is matter and what are the characteristics of matter. Already we have discussed. Today we are going to recall those things. Then we are going to discuss about the states of matter and the conversion of states of matter. So listen carefully. See, matter. What is matter? See, already you know very well. Matter, it is nothing. Anything which occupies space. Anything which occupies. Anything which occupies space and has mass. Anything which occupies space and has mass is known as matter. So, what are the things are matter? This, for example, this blackboard and this pen and this duster and wall and everything, book, chair, pen and everything, it is anything which occupies space and has mass is known as matter. See, this occupies some space and has mass like this. If any substance which occupies space and has mass is known as matter. But feelings like love, hatred and some other feelings, that is cold, we feel cold, hot and whether we are touching to others, that is touch, these things are not considered as a matter. That smell also is not considered as a matter, but smell of anything is considered as a matter. For example, smell of perfume and smell of cooking food that reaches from several meters away. So that particles we will calculate it as a matter, that is gaseous forms of matter, but only the smell is not considered as a matter. So the things like cold, hot, love, hatred and feelings and are not a matter. Is it right? So we know very well about matter already, that is anything which occupies space and has mass. And in this matter, mainly here in our 9th standard, we are going to discuss about two different properties of matter. That generally, matter can be classified on the basis of physical property as well as chemical properties. Matter can be separated on the basis of physical properties. It is classified on the basis of physical property as well as on the basis of chemical properties. So, based under physical property, physical nature of matter, we are going to discuss about solids, liquids and gases. Under physical properties, we are going to discuss about the properties of solids, liquids and gaseous states of matter. And based on under chemical properties, we are going to discuss about elements, compounds and mixtures. Elements, compounds and mixtures. So, about these elements, compounds and mixtures, we will discuss in your second chapter, that is matter around us pure. But in your first chapter, we are going to discuss about only the physical states of matter, physical nature of matter. So, generally matter can be classified based on physical nature as well as chemical nature. That physically, based on its physical properties, this matter we are going to classify in the form of solids, liquids and gases. And on the basis of chemical nature, we are going to discuss about elements, compounds and mixtures. So, now listen, we are going to discuss about physical nature of matter, that is solids, liquids and gases. Before that, you have to know about the word diffusion. Do you know what is meant by diffusion? See, diffusion is nothing. It is mostly in all the forms of matter, whether it is solid, liquid or gas. Whether it is solid, liquid or gas, in all the forms of matter, mainly we will discuss about one thing. It is called diffusion. What is this? Diffusion. So what does mean by diffusion? So before going to this physical nature of matter, we have to notice this what is meant by diffusion. See, diffusion is nothing. It is the intermixing of two or more substance on their own. substance on their own. That is intermixing of two or more substances on their own. This property is called it as a diffusion. So already in our online class we have discussed about this diffusion, that is with the help of potassium permanganate crystal, isn't it? I took potassium permanganate crystal, and with the help of that we have added that potassium permanganate crystal in water. What happens, we have discussed already, that slowly that one crystal of potassium permanganate mixes into this water without any external stirring, isn't it? Without any external stirring, that potassium permanganate slowly mixes in that water, and finally both mixed together and make a potassium permanganate solution, and that is colorless water into purple color, isn't it? So this property is called diffusion, that is intermixing of two or more substances on their own. Intermixing of two or more substances on their own. For furthermore example, suppose if we will take any one drop of ink, that is whether it is blue ink or red ink or whatsoever, if we will take any one drop of ink drop, if we will add inside the water, slowly that ink particle will mixes with that water, and finally the water fully changes into the color of, that is red, whether it is red ink means it changes into the color of red color, or whether it is blue ink, if we are taking, the whole water will change in the color of blue, because that particle slowly diffuses, that is slowly mixes without any external stirring, and the whole water changes the color because of diffusion. So diffusion is nothing, intermixing of two or more substances on their own. Intermixing of two or more substances on their own. This property is called diffusion. So based on this factor, we are going to discuss about, that is characteristics of particles of matter. Before that, the matter is made up of whether it is a continuous one or it is made up of particle. You have to know that. See, ancient scientists, that is philosophers, they have believed that matter is made up of that Panch Tattva, that is air, water, land, earth, sky, isn't it? But nowadays we know very well matter is not made up of those particles. It is made up of as very smallest particles. Matter is made up of very smallest particle. For that we have already discussed about one activity based on the same example with the help of potassium permanganate. We have discussed already. What's the formula of potassium permanganate? Already said to you, it is KMnO4, isn't it? KMnO4. Potassium K, Mn for manganese, O for oxygen, potassium permanganate, isn't it? So listen carefully. What we have discussed in that class, we took that same like crystal of potassium permanganate crystal. Then if we will add inside the water, what happens? Slowly that potassium permanganate and water both intermix on their own and diffuses together, make a solution. What solution? Potassium permanganate solution. After that, what happens? If we will transfer from that solution, just if we will consider we are making 100 ml solution, in that take 90 ml solution again and add 10 ml water into that next beaker. Same like this, if we are separating into 4 or 5 beakers also, it shows the color. 5 times if we are diluting or 6 times if we are diluting, finally it shows the color of potassium permanganate, that is purple color. Purple color. But what's the difference in that first beaker to last beaker? That is the color of potassium permanganate is first, it is purple color is dark, but finally if we are getting that color is very light. But it shows that just only if we are taking one crystal of potassium permanganate, but the crystal, small crystal of potassium permanganate has, it is made up of many tiny particles. Because of that reason only, that potassium permanganate, if you are changing into another beaker, if you are diluting into another beaker with the help of water, it changes its color, that it shows its color. But dark color to light color, finally we are getting. This indicates that small particle of potassium permanganate, that small piece of potassium permanganate is made up of many tiny particles. So from this experiment we can know that we can identify that each and every matter is made up of particle. So from this experiment we can identify that matter is made up of particle. Matter is made up of particle. So matter is a continuous one or it is made up of particle. We can identify with the help of this activity. When potassium permanganate dissolves in water, after diluting this potassium permanganate solution into 4 or 5 or 6 times, it shows its color. So this shows that this matter is made up of particle. So each and every matter it is made up of particle. So now we are going to discuss about the characteristics of particle. What are the characteristics of particle? We have already discussed. What are the characteristics we have discussed? That is matter is made up of particle, you know very well. It is made up of particle. That matter is made up of very small. How will you identify the matter is made up of very small? Because that potassium permanganate we have to get us just a small piece. We took a small piece of potassium permanganate. That indicates that small piece is split into many small particles. Then after dilution it shows the color of purple dot to light. So from that we can identify matter is made up of very smallest particle. So characteristics of particles of matter. Characteristics of particles of matter. And then first we have discussed about, that is matter is made up of very small particles. Matter is made up of very small particles, and matter is continuously moving. That is particles of matter. What is continuously moving? That is particles of matter is continuously moving. Then particles of matter attract each other. Particles of matter attract each other. Finally particles of matter is made up of very small, and particles of matter continuously moving, and particles of matter attract each other, and particles of matter have space between them. Particles of matter have space between them. So listen. What are the characteristics we have discussed? That is matter is made up of very small. With the help of that activity we have identified a small piece of potassium permanganate indicates that it is made up of very fine particles, that is small particles. So only it shows the color of purple to dark to light. And then next thing, matter is made up of very small particle. Then particles of matter are constantly moving or continuously moving. How we can identify the particles of matter are constantly moving or continuously moving means, with the help of one activity we can show that is a simple example I will tell you, that is burning incense stick. What is burning incense stick? Suppose if we are taking one incense stick, that incense stick after burning, that gaseous particles will move from one place to another place. So from this we can identify particles of matter is continuously moving or constantly moving. Particles of matter are continuously moving or constantly moving. Or we can take another example also. Suppose in water, if we are adding one pinch of, that is one piece of or one very small particle of copper sulfate salt. After that one piece of one small pinch of copper sulfate salt continuously it will move together inside the water, and water particles also move towards that salt. Both will move together and both will intermix together and make a copper sulfate solution. So without any external stirring. So this shows that the particles of matter are continuously moving or constantly moving. How we are telling that? Because of movement only, that copper sulfate and water both mixed together because of movement of the particles. So from this we can identify particles of matter is continuously moving or constantly moving. Then particles of matter have space between them. How will you identify particles of matter have space between them? That means suppose if you are taking water, that is if you are taking 100 ml water, mark that water level. If you take that 100 ml water in one glass tumbler, so you will mark that water level, that is in 100 ml. Then if you are taking like this, take 100 ml water and mark it into that level of water. Okay. Then now you will add that is some amount of sugar particles. Some amount of sugar particles in it. See, take 100 ml of water and mark the level of water and add some amount of sugar particle in it. See, suppose if you are adding 2 spoon sugar or 3 teaspoon sugar or 4 teaspoon sugar, what happens? The sugar particles completely mix inside the water, but the level of water level will not rise. See, listen carefully. If we are adding that 3 spoon or 4 spoon or 5 spoon after also, that level of water level will not rise. But what happens? The sugar particles completely mixes in water. See, now I will ask one question to you. Where does that sugar particles will go? We are mixing that sugar particles in water, but water level also will not rise. But what about that sugar particles? Where does that sugar particles will go means? That sugar particles will occupy the space between the water molecule. That sugar particles will occupy the space between the water molecule. So that's why there is no rise in volume of water. Okay, so this shows that particles of matters have space between them. In that space, it occupies the other particles and both they are mixing, but there is no rise in volume. So from this experiment, we can identify the particles of matter have space between them. And finally, we are going to discuss about the particles of matter attract each other. Particles of matter attract each other. So how will you identify the particles of matter attract each other? I will tell you one example. Listen. Suppose if we are taking one chalk piece and then ice bar and then iron nail. If we are taking one chalk piece, ice bar and iron nail, you have to beat this. We have to beat them with a hammer. Now you have to beat these substance with hammer. See, if we are taking chalk piece, ice bar and iron nail, now we have to beat this substance with the help of hammer. What happens now? See, chalk also a solid substance. Ice bar also a solid substance. Iron nail also a solid substance. We are taking these three substances, that is chalk, ice bar, iron nail. Three substances are also a solid substance. Now we will beat them with the help of hammer. What happens? First we will beat chalk. What happens? This chalk will broken into a simpler pieces, isn't it? Easily with the help of hammering, easily the chalk broken into simpler pieces easily. And what happens about ice bar? When we will hammer that ice bar, it is not so easy compared to chalk. but ice bar also break with the help of that hammering. Okay. Then what happens while beating that iron nail with the hammer, that is iron nail will not break easily because all these three substances are also solid. But what happens, why these chalk pieces can be with the help of hammering it can be broken into pieces easily, but ice bar not so easy like chalk, but iron nail we can't break with the help of hammering. What happens, what's the reason means, because these three substances are solids, but the force of attraction, between these three substances is different. What is different these substances? The force of attraction between these three substances, that is chalk, ice bar, iron nail. The force of attraction between the particle is different. The force of attraction in chalk piece is very small compared to ice bar, and compared to iron nail, ice bar the force of attraction is less, but for iron nail the force of attraction is more, so we can't break it easily. So from this we can identify the particles of matter attract each other. Each and every particles it contains some force of attraction between them. Based on that force of attraction we can break the particles easily. Okay, so from this we can identify. Do you know rubber band? That rubber band is made up of whether it is solid, liquid or gas. You know very well rubber band. See, this is one rubber band. This is a solid substance only, isn't it? This is one solid substance. See, but I can easily stretch this rubber band, isn't it? What happens? Rubber band is a solid, but the force of attraction in this rubber band also it is less. When I will apply external force, it can be stretched easily, isn't it? When I will apply external force, it can be stretched easily. But when I will release this force, again it comes to its original position. So from this we can identify each and every substance has some force of attraction between them. So with the help of this they can ask one question, if this is in your book also, why rubber band is a solid but it can be stretched easily. Why? Because when we will apply external force on this rubber band, it will stretch easily. After releasing the force, it regains its original shape. But when we will apply over force of attraction on this rubber band, it may break. Okay, so due to the force of attraction, this rubber band, it can be stretched easily. So this is also one question they will ask, give reasons why rubber band is a stretchable easily, because it is a solid substance. Okay, same like this, they may ask one more question also to you based on this chalk, ice bar, iron nail, which has high force of attraction. Why? Okay, iron nail has high force of attraction because we can't break it easily compared to chalk and ice bar. Okay, so these are characteristics of particles of matter. So what are the characteristics of particles of matter we have discussed? That is, particles of matter is made up of very small. Particles of matter is made up of very small, and particles of matter have space between them. Then particles of matter have space between them, and particles of matter are constantly moving or continuously moving, and particles of matter attract each other. So in your examination for this each and every characteristics they will ask activity. You have to know about the activity of each and every characteristics of particles of matter. So you have to explain with the help of activity. Okay, so listen. Next we are going to discuss about, listen. Okay. Next we are going to discuss about, that is, states of matter. What are the states of matter we are going to discuss here means, first we are going to discuss about only the basic states of matter, only the three states of matter, that is about solids, liquids and gases. First, we are going to discuss about the physical states of matter, because already I have informed to you about the chemical nature of matter. We will discuss in your second lesson. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the physical states of matter, that is physical nature of matter. And first, we are going to discuss about three states of matter, that is solids, liquids and gases. See, you know very well, these solids also matter, liquids also matter, gases also matter, isn't it? Because solids also occupy space and has mass. Liquids also occupy space and has mass. Gases also occupy space and has mass. So, all these three are a matter, isn't it? So, now we are going to discuss about the comparison between the states of matter with the help of some property. See, what about arrangement of particles? What about the arrangement of particles? See, how the particles are arranged in solids, liquids and gases. Very first we are going to discuss about arrangement of particles. That means solids, the particles are arranged very closely. The particles are arranged in solids are very closely, that is very tightly packed. The particles are arranged in the solids are very closely packed, are very tightly packed. The arrangement of particles in solids are very closely packed, are very tightly packed. Very closely packed. The particles are very closely packed. And what about in liquids? In liquids, the particles are somewhat loosely packed. The particles are somewhat loosely packed compared to solids. But what about in gases? The particles are very loosely packed. The particles are very loosely packed. So that's why in solids, the movement of particle is not possible easily, because the particles are very closely packed. So the movement is not possible easily in solids. But what about in liquids? It has some space, isn't it? See, it has some spaces there. So in this space, a slight movement is possible. The slight movement is possible. And in gases, it has lots of space. So the movement of particles are possible. So the intermolecular space in solids are very closely packed. There is no space in solid. But in liquid, it has very slight space. In gases, the intermolecular space is high. So due to that reason, gaseous particles are very loosely packed and move very fast. So this is arrangement of particles. In solids, the particles are arranged in a very close manner. In liquids, it is slightly less compared to solids. In gases, the particles are very loosely packed. Then, next thing, we are going to discuss about density. Do you know what is meant by density? That is mass per unit volume. Already you know very well. Density is nothing. The mass per unit volume. So, what about density in solids and density in liquids and density in gas? What about the solids have high density? And what about in liquid? Liquids has less density compared to solids, and gases also have very less density compared to solids and liquids. Then, what about shape of solids and liquids and gas? What about shape of solids, liquids and gas? You know very well, solids have definite shape. What about shape of solids? Definite shape. Liquids, what about the shape of liquids? Liquids do not have definite shape. It occupies the shape of container. And what about gases? Gases also do not have definite shape. It occupies the shape of the container. Okay, so shape about solids are definite shape, but in liquids there is no definite shape. It occupies the shape of container. Gases also there is no definite shape. It occupies the shape of container. You know very well in which container if we are taking, it shows the shape of that container because it has no definite shape. So then what about volume? See, you know volume, solids have definite volume, liquids also have definite volume, but gases do not have definite volume. See, based on this in your examination they may ask questions like this. State of matter which has definite shape but which has definite volume but there is no definite shape. What's the name of the states of matter? That is liquid. Which state of matter has definite volume but there is no definite shape? That is liquid. Which do not has definite shape as well as definite volume means there is no definite shape and definite volume means it is gases. Which has definite shape as well as definite volume means it is solids. So what about the shape of solids, liquids and gases? Solids have definite shape, liquids and gases do not have definite shape. But what about volume? Solids and liquids have definite volume but gases do not have definite volume. Already we have discussed about this, and next we are going to discuss about compressibility. What does mean by compressible? Compressibility. We can able to compress the substance easily. That property is called compressibility. See, which substance can be compressible easily in solids, liquids and gases? You know very well. Solids are, the particles of solids are very closely packed, so we can't able to compress the solid easily. This is duster. I can't able to compress this duster easily, isn't it? Same like this, I can't able to compress this pen easily. I can't able to compress this pen. Same like this. What about liquid? Liquids are somewhat, the particles are loosely packed, so it can be somewhat compressible. And because these liquids are fluids, isn't it? And what about gases? Gases are also fluids, but these gases can be easily compressible than solids as well as liquids. Because you know very well, if we are taking solids, liquids and gases in a container, solids only will occupies the volume of the container, whether it is 5 kg, only it occupies the level of 5 kg. Whether if you are taking 5 liter water, it occupies the 5 liter level. But if you are taking the same like this 5 kg of gases, it occupies the whole container because it is particles are very loosely packed. So the movement of particles are very high, very fast. So the fast movement hits the wall and hits the substance and move here and there. So the movement is so fast because of the kinetic energy of the particle. These gases can be easily compressible. Because of this ability, mostly in our home we are using gas. What's the name of that gas? Do you know that? LPG. What's the gas? LPG. That is liquefied petroleum gas. What is this? Liquefied petroleum gas. So in home we are using this LPG, that is liquefied petroleum gas, as well as in some we are using the CNG, compressed natural gas. We are usually as nowadays in vehicles they are used as a fuel, that is CNG, compressed natural gas. Because of this compressibility property, these gases can be easily compressed into any container. That is, in small container we can able to compress that is most volume of the gases. So it can be easily compressible and can be carried into one place to another place very easily. Because of this, compressible in nature, easily compressible than solids and liquids. So from this they may ask one question, that is in your book also you have that question. See, tell me, do you know sponge? That sponge is a solid, liquid or gas? You know very well. See, this is a sponge. This sponge is a solid, isn't it? It is a solid, but it can be able to compress easily, isn't it? It can be able to compress. See, I can be easily compress this sponge. Okay, but I can't able to compress this pen. Because this also solid, but I can easily able to compress the sponge. What's the reason? They may ask a question in your examination also, because these questions you have in your book also. So whether sponge is a solid but it can be easily compressible. Why? What's the reason? Sponge is a solid, but in sponge they have many tiny holes present in it. What happens? Many tiny holes present in it. That is because of that many tiny pores in this sponge makes to air trapped. So when we are able to compress, the air comes outside. So because of this reason, we can easily able to compress the sponge. Answer also it is in your book. So go through your book. Okay. So sponge is a solid, but we can able to compress the sponge because the sponge has many tiny pores, that is holes present in it. When we will compress the holes, that is a sponge, air trapped out. Because of this reason, it can be easily compressible. Okay, so this is the compressible nature of solid, liquid and gases. What's the diffusion property in solids, liquids and gases means? What about diffusion nature in solids, liquids and gases? See, solid particles cannot diffuse fastly, cannot diffuse faster like liquids and gases, and gaseous particle easily can be diffuses together. For example, if you are taking any solid particle, when we are adding that solid in liquid, it can be diffuses, but two solids cannot diffuses easily. Okay, because the particles are very closely packed, there is no movement of particle. Because of there is no movement, the diffusion also not takes place easily. But with the help of liquids, the solid particles also diffuses. For example, we have discussed that potassium permanganate in water, or that copper sulfate in water, or sugar in water. If like this, any substance if you are mixing together, both they are mixing, because in that place that solid particles are mixing in liquids, so both they are mixing to form a diffusion, to form a solution because of diffusion. But what about in gases? Already we have discussed about that diffusion in gases. Suppose if you are keeping one incense stick in one corner of the room, if you are lighting that incense stick in other corner of room also, it gives the smell, that is, it gives the smell of that incense stick. How it is possible? What happened means, because that incense stick, after burning that incense stick, what happens? That gaseous particles are coming out, and this room also it is fully that gaseous particles are present. So both gaseous particles are intermixing. Air also has many gases, and in these incense stick also the gaseous particles are releasing. Both gaseous particles intermixing very quickly, because you know very well, in gases the movement of particles is so easy. So both they are mixing very quickly. Because of that movement, that intermixing of particles takes place very easily. So diffusion takes place very easily compared to solids and liquids. Okay. So the diffusion is faster in gases compared to solids and liquids. Food. Suppose your mommy is cooking in a kitchen, we are able to get the smell of that cooking food from several meters away, isn't it? This question also they may ask in your examination. Why we are getting that cooking food smell reaching several meters away? Give reasons why. Explain means, because while cooking food, what happens when we are rising the temperature? While rising temperature, what takes place? Kinetic energy, that is movement of particles takes place faster. While increasing temperature, that movement of particle also get increased. Why? Because that temperature will overcome the force of attraction between the particles. When we are rising the temperature, that temperature overcomes the force of attraction between the particles. Because of that force of attraction, what happens? That force of attraction will become less. So, due to that reason, the movement of particle is high. So, while increasing temperature, the diffusion also increases fastly. Because of that, temperature will overcome the force of attraction between the particles. So, compared to solids, liquids, gases undergo very high diffusion. Okay, so these properties are we have physical properties of solids, liquids and gases we have discussed already. So we have discussed about compressibility, diffusion, volume and then density and then shape, and these things we have discussed. Now we are going to discuss about the change in states of matter. How will you change one state of matter into another state of matter? Do you have any idea? Listen. How will you change one state of matter into another state of matter? Further, we have a changing state of matter with the help of temperature. We will change one state of matter into another state of matter, or with the help of pressure we can change one state of matter into another state of matter. So with the help of temperature and with the help of pressure. So before entering into this topic, by using the temperature we have to know about the conversion of temperature. Do you know what is the SI unit of temperature? It is Kelvin. What's the SI unit of temperature? It is Kelvin. We will represent with the help of K. And do you know what's the normal unit of temperature? It is Celsius. It is Celsius. How will you mention? We will mention in the form of degrees Celsius. So like this we will mention it is degrees Celsius. So SI unit of temperature is Kelvin and the normal unit of temperature is degree Celsius. So you know that what's the relationship between this temperature and Celsius? That is 0 degree Celsius. 0 degree Celsius is equal to 273.16 Kelvin. But for our convenience, we are using this 0 degree Celsius is equal to 273 Kelvin. For convenience, if we are using 0 degree Celsius is equal to 273 Kelvin. 0 degree Celsius is equal to 273 Kelvin. Then what about 100 degree Celsius? That is 100 degree Celsius is equal to 273 plus 100, that is 373 Kelvin. So how will you convert the Celsius to Kelvin scale and Kelvin to Celsius scale? Now we are going to discuss. Listen. So what's the SI unit of temperature? It's Kelvin. K. What's the normal unit of temperature? It is degree Celsius. So what's the relationship between this Celsius scale and Kelvin scale? Means 0 degree Celsius is equal to 273 Kelvin. Now we are going to discuss about, that is, conversion of temperature, that is Kelvin to Celsius, Celsius to Kelvin. Listen. Listen carefully. So just now we have discussed, that is 0 degree Celsius is equal to 0 degree Celsius is equal to 273 Kelvin. 273 Kelvin. Suppose if they are asking, convert the following temperature into Celsius scale. Convert the following temperature into Celsius scale. How will you convert the following temperature into Celsius scale? For example, 293 Kelvin and 400 Kelvin. Keep this in your mind. You have to convert these Kelvin into Celsius scale. These Kelvin into Celsius scale. How will you convert? You have that. You have formula, that is temperature on Celsius scale. Temperature on Celsius scale is equal to temperature on Kelvin scale minus 273. So how will you convert? Temperature on Celsius scale is equal to temperature on Kelvin scale minus 273, and temperature on Kelvin scale is equal to temperature So listen, this is the conversion of temperature into, that is Kelvin into Celsius scale, Celsius into Kelvin scale. So if you need to convert Celsius scale to Kelvin scale, how will you convert? That is, you have to add 273. If you need to convert Kelvin scale to a Celsius scale, if you need to subtract with minus 273. Subtract with 273. So this is the conversion of temperature into Kelvin scale to Celsius, Celsius scale to Kelvin. So you have to convert to temperature on Kelvin scale to Celsius scale means you have to subtract with 273, and if need to convert Celsius to Kelvin means we need to add with 273. Okay, see here, you need to convert this Kelvin scale to Celsius scale. So how will you convert? That is 293 minus 273. So how will you convert? This is Kelvin scale. You have to convert this Kelvin scale to Celsius scale. So what you have to do? Temperature on Kelvin scale minus 273. So Kelvin scale is 293, Kelvin is given. So minus 273. So what's the answer? That is 20 degrees Celsius. What's the answer? 293 minus 273. That is 20 degree Celsius. Isn't it? 20 degree Celsius. So same like this. How will you convert this 400 Kelvin? So same like this, 400 Kelvin minus 273. What's the answer? 400 minus 273. Need to convert. That is 127 degree Celsius. So this is the conversion of Celsius, that is temperature of Kelvin scale to Celsius scale. So Kelvin scale is given, you have to subtract with the help of 273. So this is the one conversion, and another conversion. See, next step, you have to convert 25 degrees Celsius to Kelvin scale. So how will you convert 25 degrees Celsius to Kelvin scale? So you have to convert into Celsius to Kelvin. So you have to add with plus 273. That is 25 plus 273. You will get the answer. 25 plus 273. What's this? 8, 273 and 25, 8, 9, 2. So 298 Kelvin. So what's the answer? 298 Kelvin. Suppose minus 3 degrees Celsius. How will you convert minus 3 degrees Celsius to Kelvin scale? So you have to add like this, minus 3 plus 273. So 270 Kelvin. So 270 Kelvin. So this is the conversion of temperature on Kelvin scale to Celsius scale, Celsius scale to Kelvin scale. So how will you convert Kelvin to Celsius? Kelvin to Celsius means that is you have to subtract with 273. And how will you convert temperature that is degree Celsius to Kelvin means you have to add 273. This is the conversion of temperature on Kelvin scale to Celsius scale and Celsius scale to Kelvin scale. So I will give the homework for conversion of matter, that is with the help of Kelvin to Celsius, Celsius to Kelvin. So do it. Okay. So listen what we have discussed today, that is about matter in our surroundings, states of matter we have discussed today. And before that we have discussed about characteristics of states of matter, and we have discussed what is matter and what is diffusion. So go through it once in your home. And in our next class we are going to discuss about, that is change in states of matter. One state of matter will convert it into another state of matter with the help of temperature and pressure. We will discuss in our next class. So what are the states of matter we have discussed here today? About solids, liquids and gases. What are the physical states of matter? We have discussed physical properties of these states of matter we have discussed today about density, arrangement of particles, the intermolecular space between the particles and volume, as well as that is compressibility and diffusion. All those things we have discussed today. So revise and then come back. Thank you children.